good. So we've got some people who know the personality type, some people who want to learn more about it, and some people who don't know it at all. Okay, so if you're the kind of student like I was and you like to turn to the back of the book and go ahead of everybody else, I'm going to give you a link so that you can run ahead of us. And don't worry, you'll still be able to follow and you'll have fun. So I'm going to give you a link. No one feeling pressure to use this right now, but I'm going to give you a link to a personality type quiz that I have two reasons for giving this to you. Number one, I want to make sure that you can follow along and do this afterwards and share this with anyone you know so that you now have a tool to use. And I want you to actually see how answering these questions gives you the right response. So if you fill this out, you will get a response. And I think you'll get a short response here and you'll get a longer response in your inbox. So I'm sending you a link to a simple version of a personality type quiz. Okay, where did I go? Wait, did I type it in? What was it? That's exactly what happened. Okay, here. Okay, I'm sending before I lose it again. Okay, I love seeing these that come in. Okay, ENFJ, Sarah, I think that's what you mean. We got LCSW, good. Oh, you worked with Nick, amazing. Okay, lots of people who I know were interested in this, had done career coaching originally. Introvert, ENTJ, run a boat, yeah, insurance company for therapists. So interesting. Okay, I'd love to meet you all. This is so much fun. Excellent. Okay, so if you got that link, you can open it. Everybody can just click on it and have it open on their screen because we're going to use it soon. For the rest of you who don't want to speed ahead, we'll go in order here. And I'm going to do a screen share and I'll show you, we'll just have a little slide to follow so that we can cover a lot. And I remember what we want to cover here today. Okay, let's just get this going. We got our slides up. We got our share. Closing my how to make the Zoom thing stop. Okay, there. Now we got the right screen up, right? Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can see. It's working. Okay, seems like everyone can see. Perfect. Okay, so how to use personality types as promised, and of course, any deeper career questions that we have time for, send them my way. That's my favorite thing to do. Okay, so before we go just into personality types, I have to do them justice by explaining where they fit in, why you would want to know personality type, and when you shouldn't rely on it. So you might have heard this word, Ikigai. If not, I present to you a wonderful, wonderful word, Ikigai, which is a Japanese word that somehow, like these Japanese words do, encompasses so many different things about careers and kind of like is the sweet spot, that perfect point that if you can reach that in your career, you kind of have it made and you're good for life. So it's a combination of these four things, like you see the Venn diagram. So we need four things to overlap it. It's got to be what you love. The world has to need it. It has to be something you could get paid for, and it has to be what you're good at. So if you do any sort of career coaching, advising, then this is a really useful framework, and you've probably thought of this before. And I just love how it breaks it down, because if you look at the overlap, it's like, if you do just what you love and what you're good at, that's passion, because the world might not need it and you might not be able to get paid for it. So that might be crocheting or biking for you. And then what if you take what you're good at and what you can get paid for? Sure, that might be a bookkeeper, an accountant, but you might not love it. And does the world need so much of it? Well, that's important, right? Because we want to make sure that you're employed. So then we go to the next category. Well, what if we had the overlap of what the world needs and what you could get paid for? Sure, that's a job, just the job. Probably don't love it, like 70% of people, but it pays the bills. You have something to do every day. And then if we have what the world needs and what you love, but you might not be that good at it, and no one's willing to pay for that, then that might be like a nonprofit kind of a role, or something that you do voluntarily. A perfect career is when it's something the world needs. I'm good at it. I absolutely love doing it, and people are willing to pay me for it. So for you, that might be career coaching. That might be being a lawyer. That might be a gardener. That might be anything else. So this is kind of the sweet spot. That is like the overarching feeling that I want you to think about when we're thinking about careers. Okay. Now, where does personality type fit in? So there's a couple of things. And I have these conversations with people a lot when they talk about what they're good at. And for example, if we do aptitude testing, so that actually kind of fits into IQ. Like, are you analytical? Are you detail oriented? Do you have good spatial perception? And I'll show you in a minute exactly the things that we test for when we want to look at what is kind of under the umbrella of IQ. Not necessarily scientifically like an IQ test, but the thing that we think about as IQ, which is kind of pretty stable, doesn't change so much, like if you were born with a sense of direction or not. You could study maps and you might get incrementally better, but probably you shouldn't go and become a specialist in that, right? And then EQ is people get really frustrated when you tell them, or at least this is my experience, when you tell them that you can't change your IQ. And they say, well, what do you mean? People are always developing. And I say, yes, that's when you're talking about emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, self-awareness, relational awareness, improving your ability to earn more money is directly related to that. That is something that we should all constantly be improving, and we're all always working on. So that we don't cover in like aptitude testing. Career coaching can go into that, but that's more like leadership coaching or life coaching or maybe therapy. So we kind of are careful how much we touch of that. And then there's, of course, personality, which is the easiest, most enjoyable, fastest way to get to know a person. It's basically some characteristics. And some of us also like to think that we're unique, and we are unique, just like everybody else. I like to say, not my original quote, I'm sure you've heard it before. But what's kind of nice about us as humans is just like we can expect when we meet a new human, they're going to have one nose and two eyes and one mouth. There's going to be certain things. There's going to be four very definite categories that they're going to fit into more of one side and more of the other. And if we can learn these four things about them, there's a lot more that we can then understand about them, how to relate to them, how to manage them, how to guide them, how to understand them, and how to develop a strong relationship with them if that's what we're looking for. So that is, these are the three categories. Okay, so ability to think, ability to feel, right, or the EQ, and then IQ. The EQ, which might not surprise you, influences job success a lot more than IQ, which is good because it could be raised a lot, and a lot of that has to do with nurture. IQ is a lot of nature, and that's an entire topic unto itself. Okay, no. Next. This doesn't want to move on. Second, we will figure out the technology, even if we have to restart. Yes, we'll have to restart. There we go. Okay. Good. We could catch up with the waiting room. See a bunch of people hanging out there. Meanwhile, okay, so they will get to see this from the beginning. Okay, so we discussed personality type. Why are my arrows not working? Let's see. Okay, there we go. We discussed the word Ikigai. Now you get to learn my favorite word. We discussed EQ and IQ. Okay, and here's where we get to see what actual test results. So I saw a few messages came in of those of you who've done aptitude testing with Nicholas Lohr. So Nick, I had a great conversation with him earlier today. He's 80, and he's still a little bit involved, but likes to hear the fun parts at this point. And so he's very excited about what we're doing here. And a lot of you got the chance to work with him, as did I, to guide you on your career choices from back in the 80s, 90s, up until couple years ago. So well, just like the past post-COVID even. So if you did personality, if you did aptitude testing with Rockport, then you'll see that these are like this is sample scores, and these are all the different things that we test for: the spatial, non-spatial, diagnostic reasoning, analytical reasoning. And if you're trained as a career coach, these are things that you would know what to do with. Just for fun, I'll give you an example. Rate of idea flow. It's how quickly a person comes up with new ideas. So having a 35th percentile means that this person is a more deep focus than a quick jumping from thing to thing. How we put that together with all their other abilities and their personality is something that we do in career coaching. You'll see the last thing here is type indicator, which is their personality type, which is what we can teach pretty quickly. And then, of course, we go into this even more depth in the course. Okay, so there are two ways to follow along. If you already saw the link, I'll drop it again, this link right here. So I will click on it and put it right in the chat again. So if you're on a phone, you might want to do this later. But if you're on a nice size screen, then click on the link, dropping it in the chat again, and it will open up a page that looks like this. And as we're going through this, you can take the quiz, so then you'll get actual results instead of waiting for me to send them to you. Okay, so you can click on ready and then come back with me over here. Okay. Another thing for you to do is if you have a paper handy and a pen, here's a little exercise. If not, visualize it, but you'll have way more fun if you do it. Okay, so give you a minute, get something to write with. You can't do this on a phone. This is not a digital exercise. This is a physical exercise. Okay, so paper, pen, open up your link. How are we doing? Okay, so what I want you to do is to write today's date and name on top of your paper, 11/30/2025. If you're in the US, which I think most people here are, 11/30/2025, okay? I wrote that with my right hand. Now switch hands and write the same thing with your other hand. Okay, if you're having as much fun as me, yours is coming out just as funny as mine. Okay, so look at the difference. That's my first one and that's my second one. And if you tried it yourself, you'll notice that with one hand, it was natural and you wrote normally. And with the other hand, it was effortful. You had to think. And even with all that effort, it still didn't come out as nice and neat as the other one. This is a really good way to think about personality type. So there's 4 categories. In every single one, everybody's got their dominant, like just like we have a dominant hand, and they're less dominant, right? So you might be an introvert. It doesn't mean that you don't ever like people or being with people, but it does mean that it's your preference. It's easy, it's natural. You don't have to put in effort, you don't have to try, and you come out looking better without trying. So that's kind of the framework that I want you to have in your mind when you're thinking about personality type, right? And then like you might be ambidextrous, but probably I find more times if somebody thinks that they're in the middle, especially of more than one category, they just haven't understood it well enough or gotten to know themselves enough. And of course, it doesn't matter what other people think of you. Introversion being a really good example. Lots of introverts are considered extroverts by people who don't know them really well because they only get to see them in extroverted settings. So we all can act in other ways than our natural self, and nobody besides us really knows if this is easy and natural and comfortable to me, or if I'm putting in a little bit of effort to do this. So now prompt number 1. So you can do this along with me here, and you can switch over. I hope I'm not making this too complicated to the personality type. And I'll explain, you can use this prompt or you can use the question here, whichever one's easy for you. So kind of 2 tracks depending on what your personality is. Okay, so you can either think about what are your favorite elements of a party? Give you a minute to do that. And for those of you who are answering the question over here, or if you're like me and you're probably trying to do both, then another question is, at the end of a long day, how do you usually recharge and re-energize? And these are not the only 2 questions. And the point is that we're trying to get to know one thing about you. And that thing is what recharges you, being internal or external. Do you get your recharge from going inside, being alone, or having a conversation with one person who understands you, or going out? And it's not which one do you do more. It's not which one do other people think you do. It's which one is natural to you. So I'm going to click here on my personality type. I like people, but when it's time to recharge, I like to be alone. Okay, back here. My favorite elements of a party. If anyone has the answer that they want to share, I'm going to catch up with the chat. Okay, my favorite elements of a party, I've noticed that I will always go to find one person to have a conversation with, and I prefer that much more over being part of a group conversation. If you look at your answers, you'll probably recognize if you're extroverted, you wrote things down to do with the groups of people, lots of public energy kinds of things. Let's see what people wrote. Yeah, okay, you're already getting your type. And introverts are going to notice different kinds of things. Energized by spending time alone, avoid being the center of attention, think first, think things through inside their head, listen more than talk, keep their enthusiasm, spelling mistake there, to themselves, prefer depth to breadth, and the opposite. Now, if you're an extrovert, there's going to be some things about you that are going to be true on the introvert side, and the opposite. That doesn't mean that you just like the 2 hands. It doesn't mean that you don't have the other one. It means that, well, one is your primary, one is your secondary. If you're not sure, type in your question. I'm glad to answer. Okay. So extrovert and introvert, what gives you more recharge? At work, I'll just add the people who are extroverts tend to speak up first in a meeting. They tend to have more speaking time. On studies that were done in conference rooms, the amount of time that extroverts will typically speak for like 2 minutes to an introvert's maybe 30 seconds, and often only if they're called on. And so because of that, extroverts often tend to get promotions. People tend to think that they know more because they speak up more. So if you run a team or you're on a team, you might want to give people, I've seen places where they'll hand around a water bottle as a microphone and time it so that people have even amounts of time to speak. And if you're an introvert at a job and you're at an extroverted job, it takes a lot of people energy, then that means that you're coming home pretty exhausted because you've used up, like maybe your ideal is like 70-30 introvert extrovert, and you've used up like more than 100% of your energy doing other things. So then you just need to come home and recharge, and then you're spending all this downtime out of work recharging from work, and you're not getting paid for that time. So we kind of want to think about work as, am I doing external outward facing? Like I know for me, when I'm in front of a classroom, when I'm teaching a large group in person, I can be on a very like extroverted energy and I can completely get into it. But then I know that I need like the rest of the day just to like have quiet if I want to go back to work normally the day after that. Or if I spend a whole day at a networking event or a business conference, then I usually book 0 in-person meetings for the next day because I know I need to recalibrate. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Okay, so here's a prompt. And again, you can do whichever thing you prefer. You can answer here, or preferably both. But if you do have a sheet of paper out, look at this apple and write something about it. And yes, this is a vague prompt, and that's intentional. Okay. So there's 2 ways of taking in information. There's sensing, is what we call sensing, and then there's what we call intuitives. The way a sensor will look at this apple, you'll write words like red, shiny, leaf, maybe you wrote paper because there's a paper in the background, but you're noticing what your 5 senses notice. And it's practical, it's grounded, it is what it is. An intuitive person, someone who scores higher on the other side, might write delicious, crunchy, appetizing, school, like things that it reminds them of, or sense impressions that they get from it. So if you look at the words that you wrote, that might help you clarify which side, right? Which side you are in. This thing did on the apple. And there we go. Okay, so sensors tend to notice what their 5 senses notice, and that's the first thing. Now, of course, just like your right hand and your left hand, everybody can notice those things, but the sensors notice the physical 5 senses first, what you can see, hear, taste, which taste, touch, smell, feel, what is, and intuitives notice the thing that it reminds me of, the thing that it makes me think of, a sixth sense, a feeling I get about it, something futuristic. So intuitives trust inspiration and inference much more. Sensors trust what's concrete. Sensors like new ideas, but only if they have practical applications. Intuitives just like ideas for their own sake. They value imagination, realism. So look at these 2 sides and you'll see which one sounds more like you. Now, this is, I find for most people, when I'm doing this in a one-on-one session, have the hardest time with this category because everybody wants to feel like, but I'm both, and we are both. Again, like, of course you have both sides. But if at the end of a day's work, you feel good having like physical evidence of what you've done, like laying a brick wall, or I created this thing, I made this spreadsheet that works, I built this creation, you might be a sensor. And intuitives are much more likely to do something like therapy, psychology, teaching, investing, something that's futuristic. And to you, the future is reality. And it's not hard for you to go into futuristic potential ideas and thinking about people, about yourself, about your future, about your children very naturally. If you're following along with the quiz here, so intuitive and sensing, Now you probably have an answer to this. So do you think about what's going on now, or do you spend more time in your imagination? And you see what we're trying to get at. So if you're a sensor, then A would be your answer. I'm going to choose B because it might seem like I'm here, but I'm imagining things all the time as we speak. That's completely accurate for me. Okay, so back to the next part. Good, I see. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, okay. I appreciate your comment, Joanne. I think I'm intuitive but forced to be a sensor. So lots of us do things. Like I think parenting toddlers is much more natural for a sensor, and parenting teenagers, if anyone's been in either of those positions, is I think a little bit more intuitive. So we're all going to have positions in life, positions in our job where we're going to have to push ourselves to be a little bit more what doesn't come naturally to us. And then you'll see that everyone around you seems to have a much easier time. And that's why. So that usually helps. And even if you're in a sensing job, very often the intuitive person will just notice things about people, about the project, or future things that they pick up on and other people don't seem to see. And it might not be valued, but it is important to value it for yourself, and know that you see it. 1 second, we skipped my slide, skipped a slide here. No. Okay, there we go. So prompt number 3, the third category. Again, either one, whichever one you prefer. I'll show you the question in a minute, or you're following along on your own. But write down your greatest fear or fantasy regarding conflict. I'll give you a minute for this to think about this. Feel free to type it in or write it down for yourself. Regarding, someone just asked, regarding conflict, like when you think about conflict, what do you go into fear, or like what you would like? Maybe for some people, it's like, I wish I would be able to stand up for other people, or, when you think about debating or arguing or standing up for someone else, that feels really good. And for other people, conflict is just something that I want to avoid, something that I don't want to have to deal with, something that terrifies me, something that I run away from at work. So people will have very different, and this is a confusing question because everyone thinks that everyone else must be like them, but it isn't the case, which is the beautiful part of personality type, especially in peer relationships or like partner relationships, because usually one person is one type and the other is the other type. And so the feelers assume that nobody else wants to be in conflict, and they kind of try to stay away from it. And the thinkers just think that, well, we're just sharing our opinions, this isn't personal, and then there's conflict and no one understands why, and people think that people are doing things to hurt them. So good, I see you guys are thinking about this. So thinkers, what happens is that the first thing they think about is what they think about. It's logic. They don't go to their heart first, they go to their brain first. And even if you think that you should be logical, you still have a natural reaction. For some people, when they're making a decision, is the best way to think about it. They go straight to how I feel. How does this make me feel? How does this make other people feel? Thinkers think about, well, what's logical? What's smart? What makes sense? Any decision from, what meal should I order to, should we buy this house or the other one? And thinkers will step back, apply impersonal analysis. They'll think about logic, justice, fairness. So like a boss who's a thinker might have a much easier time firing someone or quitting a job where they feel like it's not a good fit, versus a feeler or asking for a raise. I find a lot of times thinkers will just say, well, this is what I'm worth, this is what you should give me. And feelers will think about, but are they going to think that I don't appreciate how kind they are? And I know that they just gave me days off because I had a sick kid, and all the emotions that come into it instead of just being logical. So if you look through this chart, and then if you're switching over to this thinking or feeling, how do you make decisions? So what part of you gets activated first? First your heart or first your mind? So I'm going to pick this. Now, most coaches, or I'd say more coaches, are feelers. than thinkers. And there's really no rule about personality type when it comes to coaching. I used to think there was, but as I watch different kinds of people become career coaches, I see how incredible it is to see different people use their personality in different ways and all get to good results. And they kind of attract clients who appreciate their style. So I'm going to choose this one, which is accurate for me. And then let me just catch up on the chat here and we'll go to the last one. Oh, yes, very good question. Okay, women are stereotypically considered all feelers and men are considered stereotypically all thinkers, which of course isn't true. Statistically, most categories are 50-50. People do say, and you can Google this and see what kind of sources come up, that still it's like 60-40 with thinkers feelers, that more women are likely to be feelers than thinkers. But for every category, you're going to find someone different. So if you think about the way that, stereotypical relationships are, is the man, the male is logical, the female is emotional, but I'm sure you can think of anyone that where the dynamic is changed. There's lots of men who are tapped into how they feel and who don't want to have conflict. And there's plenty of women who speak their mind, whether or not that's appreciated. I think it's just perceived or appreciated differently. But there's plenty of both. And yeah, okay, really good reflections here. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so the last category of personality type is our perceiver and judger, which if you got through all three, this is going to be the easiest for you. So a really easy prompt for this is, when you go on vacation, do you like planning, or is a vacation for you spontaneity? Kind of, I know where we're going to go, I know where the places to stay are, have a vague idea, but don't lock me into a tour. Don't book any concert in advance unless it's something that I'm really looking forward to. Even so, if I book it, I kind of feel like, what if I'm not in the mood? What if I change my mind? Because the way this works is that people who are judgers, which has nothing to do with being judgmental at all. Judgers are people who like to make a judgment. They like to make a plan and then have that locked in, and that feels really good and secure to them. Perceivers are people who like to leave the perception open. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what kind of adventure today is going to be? So if you think about this at work, judgers like jobs where there's straightforward training. So you do level 1, you can get this kind of job. You graduate level 2 with this degree or this level of training, then you can do this kind of job. When you get to the job, you know what to do. There's a schedule. You know where you're expected at this time of day. You know what your schedule is and what you're expected to submit by the end of the day, the week, the month, the year. Perceivers get a little stressed and feel a little constrained in those kinds of jobs. They like jobs where they're creative. So maybe people in the creative industries like marketing or sales, where there's maybe not such a strict schedule. It's more how many people can you close in a day? How many calls can you get on? How many meetings could you go to? And you wake up and every day is an adventure. Now, these are two extremes. Most people are most partners are opposites on this. So one of you is always planning and one of you is always saying, why do we have to lock everything in? I don't know if I'm going to want to go out to dinner next week with these people. But this has nothing to do. It's very interesting because all personality type, it's not it's nature, but it's not genetic. So you can have parents with one personality, super flexible, oh, let's decide to go here. And then you have a kid who's like, oh, I wish I would have known. I would have packed in advance, or would have felt good to know in advance. So at work, this shows up really different. In school, judgers are the ones who are appreciated. School works is usually run by judgers, for judgers, people who are on a schedule. But the perceivers aren't really, I think, not appreciated enough for if they're called on and they didn't plan it, they can usually make up an answer pretty quickly. If they're asked to come up and make a presentation or do something without a lot of planning, they do really well on the fly. Now, there's other things that come into this, like rate of idea flow and whatever. But the lack of planning, there's plenty of jobs that are a good fit for either, which is what I love about careers and guiding people, because there's no one best type that's successful and other type. It's more, if you know your type, and you know what your natural fit is, then you will be successful at a job if you choose something that fits your natural personality. Okay, so if you're doing, you're following along over here, perceiving or judging. So I'm going to choose A. I like to figure things out as they happen. Like if someone throws a question my way now that I didn't plan for before, cool, that's going to be fun and exciting. Wonder what it's going to be. And then other people would be like, I need questions submitted in advance. I like to know what's going to happen. I need to think about it. If it's in my calendar, then I feel better. So choose your accurate one, and then you can put in your, I'm going to type in my email address, and then you will get your full results. So that's nice, because that way you all get results. Okay. And then it will show me my results here. So this is, for me, actually my personality type. I'm an INTP, and this is totally me. If you've done it for yourself, I'd love to see what your type is, if you know it now. And I'm going to catch up on questions here. Oh, good. Okay. I see everyone's coming up with really clear answers. Fantastic. Okay. So oh, okay. I think I see what happened. Okay, this slide went to the wrong place. But so for your question before, this is the percentage of the population. I'm not fitting it very well into the screen. That people are. So 1 second. So male is the dark blue, female is the light blue. So, okay, so the SJs is most common across the board. And this is Western. This is like in the US, Canada, this side of the world. I don't think this applies everywhere. But SJs, if you're an SJ, then you're like most people, male is 19% of the population, female is 22%. If you're in the SP, now these are 4 general categories. There are 16 types, but we consider the for S's, the S and the last letter the most important to like give us a little bit about you. And for the SJ and SP, and then for the N's, the middle 2 letters are what matters most. NTs, which when I found this out about myself, being an NT, I wasn't surprised, because I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like I'm a little weird, or different than the average woman, I would say, because it's not so common for women. It's even less common for men. And then NFs, it's interesting because like I noticed earlier, we've got a lot of NFs in the room right now. NFs, even though they're not a very common type, the people who are NFs, more than the other types, really care about doing work that makes them happy. And so when I hear this question, this discussion, people are always having this debate in person, on Reddit forums, on LinkedIn, do you really need to have passion? Do you need to love what you do? Or is just work, and then go find what you like to do? And it's just ridiculous and kind of funny to me, because the people who are saying work is just work are in the S category, right? And if you're that, then tell me if this is true for you. And people who really care about what they do are almost always NFs. And an NF isn't just happy in a job, where an S can say, well, it pays my bills, it fits my needs, the commute is fine. And then I find other hobbies that I like to do outside of work. So that has a lot to do with it. So the SJs are the protectors. They're the ones who, because they're down to earth, practical, and organized, they're the ones who, without them, our institutions wouldn't run, our schools, our hospitals, systems. I was going to say government. I don't know if we should say that, but SPs are the ones that are creatives. So they're practical, like they see what is. So imagine an artist is typical for this, but then there's no constraining them. Like, I know I have to create something. Maybe I'm creating furniture, maybe I'm creating art, maybe I'm painting a mural. So it's physical, it's practical, it has utility, but I don't know when I start what it's going to be. And it can be a writer, it can be something that's not a non-physical, such a tangible thing, but it's kind of more open-ended. And then the N, so the NTs are the ones who are like usually like reading a lot, like studying, like reading nonfiction. They like informational kind of jobs where they get to use their like intuition, understanding of people, but like to do practical things like being a business consultant, or overseeing, kind of being a visionary in a business. And I actually borrowed the next one. And F, the intuitive feelers, are almost always the teachers, the guides, the mentors, the psychologists. And again, you have almost every personality in every job, and it's less about what job you can do, more about how you'll do that job, right? Like if you take the same profession and then we put different personality types, like even a career coach. So as an MT, my style is direct to the point. Like, yes, emotions matter, but only as much as we take them into account for how it's going to affect your career decision. And F is going to take emotions much more into account. And SJ is going to be even more practical, and they can be very empathetic and caring. But the kind of way that they're going to go about it, even the way they run a session, is going to be much more practical on the SPs as well. And I've seen every type do it successfully in most jobs, although I'll tell you that most people who tell me maybe I should go into psychology are NFs, and the people who tell me, I'm really interested in engineering or architecture are more likely SPs. So there's some guesses that we can make pretty accurately that stereotypically people are that way. Okay, so if you're an SJ, this is going to be true about you. You're going to be loyal, dependable, honest. You like rules, you appreciate structure. No one's ever called you a rebel. You wouldn't, you would be afraid to break the rule even if nobody was watching. You like knowing what's expected. And again, if you're guiding other people and you have students or clients or employees, think about this. And if you have someone who fits into this, they just want to know what to expect. And when these people are told, well, just, your own judgment is good, do it how you think. They're just like, can you please just tell me how you want it done? Whether it's cutting a salad or closing a real estate deal, they just want to follow the rules and do it right. And then we have the SPs, who are naturally artistic, brave, adaptable. They're the ones who are always noticing, like, oh, look at that cloud, even as little kids, do you see a dinosaur? And then they see a piece of fabric and they think, oh, I think I can make it into this or that. Adventurous, curiosity, playful. They're the most fun to have as friends. If you have a friend who's constantly thinking of trips and adventures, it's usually this person. Now, they're not the one who likes the planning. They're the one who likes thinking of it. They're good storytellers, the best storytellers. And then the NFs are the visionaries, so super empathetic. Like if you have a friend who you call your therapist, they're probably an NF, or if you're that person for other people, then you know what I mean. Notice that feelings of other people, very idealistic, usually will live or die for their values, really want to understand themselves, read a lot of self-help books, really want to make a difference at work. Anyone who's in the F category, so the SJs, you can have an ISFJ, an ESFJ, or an SP. Hope I'm not speaking Chinese by now. ESFP, so anyone who has the feeler in their personality cares a lot more and is more likely to choose a job where they feel like they're helping people. Like someone tells me they want to be a lawyer and they have a F, like a feeling in their personality type. Like my first question is like, do you like fighting? And usually they say no way. So unless they're going to do like, the kind of law that doesn't involve negotiations, which is very unlikely, it's not a good idea. And then of course, if you're an NT, independent, probably don't like working for other people. You think you have better opinions, and you probably do. Determined, high achiever, self-sufficient, really good at learning on your own. Maybe like reading the book before a test instead of going to class. And you will question anything and everything. Okay, I'm going to catch up for questions. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, good. Wow, it seems like everybody has got their personality type. I'm loving these. Okay, if you're right in the middle on a trait, because it's so close, so I'm going to ask you which one it is, and feel free to type it in. If it's the first or the last, like introvert, extrovert, or perceiving or judging, then some people really are more likely to be in the middle. Like there's some people who are like, the vacation question, they would answer well, like I have my hotel booked, I have my car booked, I have the names and places and prices and schedules for every one of the attractions that I may want to do, but I don't want to lock it in until I get there, but I find out what's going to be available the day of. So that's kind of in between, because you didn't lock anything in, but you know it. So you could be, and people like that are really good at being balanced, where like they get enough information to be organized and planned, and they show up on time, but they're not there 10 minutes early. They're there on time. So you could be that. And then the question is, if at work and in your personal life, and when people tell me, oh, which one are you asking about, my work self or my personal self? There's no such thing. If you have a work self, then that means that you're putting that on. So that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for your natural personality. Now, we all have to act certain ways or tap into other sides of us, like the person who said that they were in a job that push them to have to be in the more sensing category when they're more naturally intuitive. Or I've been in classroom positions where I had to entertain, or I'll do business, trainings where I'm having to speak to a big crowd of people, but that doesn't mean it's natural to me. So if you're trying to be that type, then that's right away tells me that it's not who you are naturally, and that's fine. You can act however you want, and you can spend as much time as you want recovering from that. But your natural personality type, if we're trying to make a career decision and pick your ideal career, then we want to know that. Now, we are talking about ideals here. I always like to remind myself, because just because something is your ideal career doesn't mean that makes sense for your lifestyle. Like maybe the thing that will really give you the income that you need and to be able to have a good retirement, savings plan is something that is not perfectly aligned with your personality, but it's perfectly aligned with your life goals, and you find a way to compensate or make up for your personality, where it's not hitting all the things in your personality. But we have to start from a starting point of knowing what's ideal so we can figure out, why am I not happy? Is it because of the commute, or is it because I can't stand working with people at all? Or is it because it's too technical? Or is it because there's never an ending and I'm a sensor and I like to have like practical, knowing what's going to happen. Okay. Someone said that their test came up as INFJ, but the report gave you ENFP. Well, that's good. So we know you're an NF. So again, you can go through it again and kind of decide for yourself. It's not what I think about you, it's what you think about you. Do you prefer to plan? If you needed to lock in a reservation for in 2 weeks from now for dinner and choose what you're going to eat, would that feel great? And then you're like, great, now I don't have to worry about dinner in 2 weeks. Or would that feel like, how would I know what I'm in the mood of? That sounds terrible. Then that could help you know. And then the introvert and extrovert also is like, if you had to sit in an office alone for a certain amount of hours every day, would that seem peaceful, or would that seem terribly lonely and boring? Should help give you an answer between the introvert and extrovert. And you might not be that extreme, and that's fine. Okay, good. I see this is helping. SJ. These are great comments. Okay. My quiz link result is INTP, but I'm looking at the side-by-side list. I came out as ESFP. In the past, I was an ENFP. No, so your personality type doesn't change, just like your original nose doesn't change. You can act different ways. You can force yourself to be different ways. You might have been raised in a family that was a certain way, but who you are naturally, this is something that we can see from really early childhood. I see this on my own children from before age 1. By age 2, you can absolutely tell. And I mean like babies. Like I've had kids who were introverted, and you can see they were much quieter. They didn't enjoy a lot of company when they were younger. And then other babies who are excited to meet strangers and who don't get uncomfortable and are eager to play with other kids in the playground. So, and I'm not talking about shyness or anxiety, that's separate. But this is something that doesn't change. If you want to learn more about that, the book Nurture by Nature by Tiger and Tiger is really, really good. If you have any questions, also follow up. I'll give you my personality type, my email right here. And then J versus P. Yeah, so your natural personality type should always be natural. It's you were born one personality type. How you like twisted yourself to be a certain way. I mean, I've done coaching with people who are shocked, and then they say that, like, I can't believe it, like, I really changed. And I find that a lot of people, like when they're in their teenage stage, will act a certain way because, or like mostly extroverted, because that's like a really good way to make friends. And you don't want to say, well, no, I really like my own company, I'm going to go home tonight alone. But if you were, but then they get into their 20s and get more comfortable with themselves, more established in their jobs and their communities, hopefully. And then they're like, actually, I like spending an evening alone every now and then. So it's something that you kind of want to think about, like, I think, your first decade and then like later on in life. In between, people do a lot of things, twisting ourselves into really ridiculous personality changes to try to make the other people around us more comfortable or be something that we think we should be or be something that we think society wants us to be. So I think that answers that. Any other questions, please send them my way. Okay, and this takes us to a little bit more about career coaching. Please keep typing in your questions if you do have them about anything EQ, IQ, aptitude, or personality related. Um, and this, like I wrote in my emails, is really a good way of, if this interests you and you like learning about personality type and you like helping other people, and you're going to go home and now start typing, or you've already been personality typing every single person in your family or who you work with, or your kids. So what we do in career coach training, which is open for the next week, applications are open, and I'll explain why applications are open so much before the course actually starts, which only starts, the first class is January 6th. But now is a really good time. So to be able to be a career coach, like I showed you those results earlier, so we don't only look at personality type, we also look at your aptitudes. We want to know if you have the right problem solving skills to be able to guide other people. We want to understand your personality, and we really want to see your career background to make sure that you're kind of someone who's in a position of influence. So we find that the best people obviously have some sort of solid career behind them where they have the experience. A lot of people have done career coaching in the past. Many of our best coaches were previous clients of Rockport in the last 10, 20 or further along amount of time. It's something that goes, some people like myself do this full time, and I love doing it full time. And I just like meeting with people one-on-one, and that just, makes me happy to be able to work with people like that. And then we have other people who will do this, like maybe you're a social worker and you want to bring this thing so that you don't have to refer. Like I get a lot of therapists who refer to me, and you can keep that in-house and have it as a separate service, or have something that you could do more flexibly. We have a lot of teachers who are doing this in schools, especially if they work in high schools, recruiters who know that there's more to learn about how to match people up, and there must be a science, and are struggling with that. And employers, people who are in HR, people who have that background. Now, you don't have to have that background to do it, but we find that our coaches usually have something solid behind them. We've had people who, one fantastic coach was, ran an IT department for 20, 30 years, and she's doing this on the side now. So you could have all kinds of backgrounds. We have another one who's an engineer, Gedalia, I'm thinking of. I'm going to send some more coach stories this week, and I hope my emails are not overwhelming you. We're sharing a lot about coach training. And so before you apply, part of the application process is to make sure that your background makes sense. And we also want to make sure that you have like a niche, or I'll help you come up with a niche, because there's so many areas to specialize. Like I don't have anyone to refer to who specializes in working with ADD people, or moms returning to the workforce, or executives who want to plan before retirement. So there's a lot of different areas to specialize in. And then we also have people who do this. Maybe you work in a nonprofit or want to volunteer for an organization that could use this help. And we do have some scholarships available for people who are coming through organizations. So that's also something I want you to know about. So the first thing that you do, if you haven't yet, is taking your own aptitude test, and you get a session with myself or another Rockport career coach, and then you kind of get your own career coaching experience. And then if in that session, we're being honest with people. Some people will have that session, and I've been doing a couple of these in the past few weeks, and we'll get to a point where we say, you know what, I don't know if this is your best next career step. Let's guide you to something that makes more sense for you. And we're very honest, because that's our job as career coaches. And for people who are still makes sense, and it's a really good next step for their career to serve you, and your results kind of fit, and we think that you'll be really good at it, then you're invited. So we have applications only open for the next week through December 8th. We do have a discount if you apply by tomorrow. So the application is a very simple, if you go to Rockport Institute and click Become a Coach, it's just a couple of basic questions. If you've done it before, are you familiar with it? So any applications that are in by December 1st, if you end up getting accepted the program, wanting to go ahead with it, we will give you a code. If we see that your application was in before that, you'll get a $500 discount. Pricing and everything is on the website. You can go just to rockportinstitute.com and you'll see, you can click on apply now. It has the schedule, it's got the curriculum, it's got a lot of information right here, comparisons. You can also, when you click on apply now, I'm available for conversations. So you can click here, schedule a call, and then you can book a call there with me. Any questions you have, and I'm very honest if I think that it's a good fit for you, if you should apply or not. I think that is it. Okay, so let's see what other questions came in. Yeah, okay, somebody answered for the book. Yeah, so someone mentioned, you asked if you, yeah, thank you. This is a great question, Gitty. If you're thinking of doing this as a side thing, but you don't like the marketing, that's a lot of people who like being coaches and who just like doing coaching, and who don't really like marketing. So we actually have two tracks. We have a professional track for people who just want to learn this skill, and then this is something that you're bringing into your existing job. So you already have clients, like maybe it's in an organization or at work, or you have clients that you're already working with, that you're offering this additional service. So for those people, we just have standard professional track. It's 10 weeks, January 6th, and it goes on for 10 weeks. There's a bonus 2 weeks. So by March, you're fully graduated. Part of the program is that we have you work with 5 practice clients throughout the program, and you're getting oversight and supervision. So people, and I've done this for three cohorts, 3 years already. We've been doing this. People graduate and charge full rates. Starts at $575 and charge immediately. And then we do have the entrepreneur track for people who want step-by-step. And this is the 3rd time I'm doing it. And every year I add a ton and improve it. And we didn't change the price yet. So we do step-by-step, like together, everything that you need to figure out your niche, figure out how to reach them, figure out how to not spend money in advertising and get the word out, which I'm a big fan of. And I really, when I got certified through Rockport, there was just a professional track. There was no such thing as an entrepreneur track. I personally built that out and spent years building this myself, taking programs. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars learning this, applying it, building a business, to getting a reputation where I have a really strong full-time business, and I break it down and teach it so it takes the stress out of it and kind of just makes it like step by step, and we offer support. So anyone who wants to do that, it doesn't cost a lot more, and we have another 3 months. So by the summer you'll have that, and we build it together. So every week there's something that we do it live in class, you have homework, and then I'm available for questions. So that really takes care of the building out a business for people who want to do that, especially as a side thing. And you could see on the website, or you could email me. I'm happy to introduce you to coaches who've done that successfully, who could tell you about it. Okay, we are right at our 1 hour mark. So I'm going to stay on. If there's any other questions, please feel free to type in. Oh, okay, the link isn't working. Yeah, specialization for ADD. So I don't have, there aren't any coaches yet who, hold on. Career coach application is right here. We don't have a coach who specializes in working with people who have ADD, which I have a background in education, and it's kind of different, the way that they go about work, the way they think about it, the things that they're good at. So if someone is ADD, or would take an additional certification, already has additional certification in understanding people who have attention deficit, and can help guide them, that's a really good specialty that, if you were advertising that I work in, help people with ADHD succeed in their careers and understand them, Like I've been asked a number of times to work with organizations or individuals who have some type of learning disability, because I have a background as a special educator, so I can kind of understand the limitations in testing and be able to translate the results and help translate their challenges in school, and how that would go over to work, and what kind of jobs to focus on, what kind of careers to focus on. And then another great question about January. So this past summer, we did like a very small trial for summer school. And we wanted to see if we can do it in shorter, for people who didn't want the entrepreneur track. So we did, and it was actually a condensed 6-week summer track. We didn't make a final decision if we're going to be running it again. It was successful. We did have people graduate. The time did work. Is for people who have more availability in the summer. Specifically, we had teachers in mind who want to bring it into their school. Then we have programs that can work for school where you can also teach a curriculum. We have like a 12-week curriculum if you're in a school position that could be added to that. Thank you for joining. So reach out if you want to know more about the summer, and we could discuss and kind of figure out if that makes more sense for you. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if you've got more questions, then type them in. And if you're thinking of applying, I encourage you to do it by the end of the day tomorrow, Eastern time. If you will be applying, and then you'll take your test, have a session with myself or another coach, and then get that $500 discount if you do decide to go ahead with it. So we're just going to be looking at when applications were submitted. There are only 15 slots in this class. We keep it small. I like to be able to be available for questions for each coach. So yes, I also wish, Joanne, that I had gone through this while I was in high school. You're retired. This is something that actually we have someone who went through it, this was his retirement plan. He had gone through Rockport 30 years ago, helped him in his career. You could look him up. His name is Gedalia Wallace. I think he's listed on our directory of coaches. And he's doing this as his retirement plan, working with young people in his community and working with people who are planning their retirement. It's so sad to look back, but it's also so like, at least we could channel our own challenge. Like I spent 10 years doing something that I didn't really get a lot of personal satisfaction out of. And it's like, well, at least I can channel that frustration and know what other people feel like and be able to help them. And it's cool to like help other people not go through that, because if we're the people who really understand that best. And it's interesting when you see people who are just starting out, and they kind of just think, oh, I just want to make money. And then they come back a couple years later and they're like, actually, I can't do this thing anymore. So yeah, so being able to guide people at all stages of career is really fulfilling. And if that speaks to you, and if that interests you, then I would love to hear from you. Lisa, the full cost of the program before the discount is $49.50. With the discount is $44.50. That's only the professional track. Then entrepreneur track is $69.50, I believe, before the discount. If you've taken the test in the past, there's a fee for just the testing that gets applied towards the cost of the training if you do decide to go ahead with it. Excellent. Okay, I think we got all the questions in. Please email me, coach@Shane&Karen, or the office admin at Rockport Institute. If you have any additional questions. Really appreciate all of you who came out and spent the evening together. I hope you learned something, hope you benefited. I'm sure you're benefiting the people around you. I hope you can use this tool to guide people further. And if taking this further interests you, then we're going to have a fantastic time together the next couple of months. Have a good night.